If your business got a COVID EIDL during the pandemic and you die, the SBA wants you to pay the loan back. That's right. We've seen it. Here it is. Here's the email that our client got. I don't know where Linda's going to put it. I gave our client a template to submit for her recently deceased boss. He was self-employed, not an LLC, not a corporation, a sole proprietor, filing on a Schedule C. Last year, the Small Business Administration sent this gentleman's loan to the United States Treasury for collections for non-payment, even though he was trying to make payments, but the conflicts that we've discussed ad nauseum here on our channel about SBA's mismanagement of the repayment program created obstacles for this gentleman who was in his 80s to repay the loan, and subsequently got a letter from Treasury. He was in collection, and the U.S. Treasury threatened to garnish, or what they call offset, his Social Security payments. They brought us in to put out the fire, 911 call, and we got their loan recalled from the U.S. Treasury out of collections and avoided the garnishment. Sadly, this gentleman passed away 2 weeks ago. Before I go on, I just want to remind you, if you find any value in our videos, would you please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, sharing our video with someone you think might find the information useful. We have whole playlists of information you can use to be successful with the COVID EIDL program. I'm going live on March 13th, and if you want to do it yourself, click on the link in the description for information about how you can purchase our COVID EIDL Resource Hub with our downloadable PDF guidebook with comprehensive step-by-step instructions on every interaction with the SBA, access to a private playlist of instructional videos, my special recipe templates for emails and letters and forms, and the SBA forms you need for any types of transaction, including this one, how to notify the SBA when you die. The SBA considers these loans to be short-term working capital with a 30-year term to make it affordable for you. Linda, who sold insurance throughout her whole career and started out by selling life insurance years ago, will tell you that people don't like to think about death. People don't like to prepare or plan for dying. And I'm here to tell you, if you got a COVID EIDL, you need to start thinking about preparing to die. It's a 30-year loan. For those of you who got the loan in 2020, you're 5 years into it, so you got 25 years to go. It's time to make a plan. It doesn't have to be an elaborate plan, but your business partner or partners, your employees, your customers, primarily your employees and your partners, but also your family, your estate, will be left with dealing with the COVID EIDL debt because the Small Business Administration requires you to repay the loan even if you're dead. They want to know what kind of estate assets there are, what kind of business assets there are. Has the will been probated? They want a copy of the death certificate. Because obviously, you can be sure there are people who try to commit fraud and claim they're dead to get out of paying these loans because, the criminals will criminal all day long. But most of you are honest, hardworking folks. You need to create a plan. We did a video over on our Simple Sense for Small Business channel about preparing your business, thinking about your business in terms of either handing it off to a business partner or handing it off to a family member or selling it or managing the dissolution or the sale of the business and disposal of its assets upon your demise. Click on the link, visit our channel, Simple Sense for Small Business, and while you're there, please consider subscribing to that channel as well. We talk about all the really boring stuff in small businesses that nobody wants to talk about. You will not see us advertising how to get an LLC in 30 seconds. We're not over there selling you QuickBooks programs. No, we're literally just breaking it down and teaching you in our little Simple Sense Business Academy the kind of stuff they don't teach you in business school about how to actually roll up your sleeves and deal with the boring, mundane, day in and day out stuff that people avoid, people procrastinate with to run their businesses. And these things are so simple and so commonsensical. That's why we call it Simple Sense for Small Business, because it's simple stuff that people avoid because they think it's more complicated than it is, such as firing your accountant and hiring a CPA. How do you hire an attorney? How to interview an attorney? How do you know if your business is properly registered with your Secretary of State? Articles of formation, letter of good standing, taking minutes? Do you know that if you're a corporate entity, LLC, LLP, S Corp, C Corp, if you are formally organized as a business entity, you're required by law to have meetings of your shareholders, your members, your owners, and take notes and do reporting internally so that in the event of an investigation or an audit by a regulatory authority or a criminal criminal investigation, God forbid, or a civil lawsuit, that the records of the business demonstrate decisions and information that you used. This is the kind of stuff we talk about. It's boring, but you need it. You don't know you need it, but you do. But let's go back to dying. I said to Linda Ray some years ago, I said, once you turn 55 years old, you start to think about death in a much more realistic way than you did. Up to that point, I won't say that you think you're invincible. I'll reserve that for when we're in our late teens and our 20s. We consider ourselves to be invincible, immortal even. Then you get in your 30s and 40s and you just think about life, building a life, surviving a life, thriving in your life. But when you get to be 55, you start to think about death. And if you got a COVID EIDL, you need to plan for such an eventuality. It will probably take you an hour or two altogether to organize documents, draw up your notes for basic action plan, have conversations with an attorney, with your accountant, with your family members, with your business partners, with trusted advisors, maybe people in your networking group that you trust for advice. It'll probably take you an hour, two, maybe, I would imagine, all in 3 hours tops to put together an action plan in the event of your demise. And we highly recommend you do that because, as I pointed out earlier, the SBA is going to require this information, at the very least a death certificate. You need to assign somebody to be on point to manage that communication, right? Because you don't want to have happen with your business that upon your demise, someone has to dispose of business assets. Somebody has to dissolve the lease for the space that you're renting, or sell the building that you own, or sell the factory or factories or warehouses that you own, sell the equipment, terminate employees, and deal with creditors. Because the SBA is not the only creditor who is going to expect to be paid out of the assets of the business that gets dissolved upon your death. Take the time, create an action plan. As with everything at the Small Business Administration, they have a process and a form for everything. Changing your address, changing the email address, changing your business organization, maybe from an LLC to an LLP. They have a form and a process for it. Selling assets, changing ownership, bringing in investors, getting financing from another lender while you still have the COVID loan in place, and getting what's called a subordination. So that loan can come in as a secondary position. The SBA has a process and a form for everything. And yes, as per the terms of the loan agreement you signed when you took out this loan, you are required to notify and interact and get permission from the Small Business Administration for pretty much all of these basic business operations, including dying. You can figure out how to do that stuff on your own, or you can click on the link in the description to access and purchase our EIDL Resource Hub, which is our comprehensive resource for you about everything you need to know when you need to interact with the SBA. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Please consider sharing the video with someone you might think will find it useful. And if you have questions, tune in, because I'll be live here on YouTube on March 13th answering questions. We'll see you then.